Before we begin, if you love powerful stories about justice, courage, and unforgettable moments, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, we bring you emotional stories that remind us why truth always matters. Now let's begin. The neighborhood had always been peaceful. Tree-lined streets, children riding bicycles, and neighbors who waved at each other every evening. It was the kind of place where everyone believed nothing dramatic could ever happen. But on this particular Saturday afternoon, that illusion shattered. 38-year-old Danielle Brooks had just returned home after spending 12 exhausting hours preparing for one of the biggest federal corruption trials in the state. As an assistant United States attorney, her work wasn't glamorous. It demanded late nights, endless paperwork, and the courage to stand against powerful criminals who believed they were untouchable. She parked her SUV in the driveway, carried a grocery bag in one hand and her work files in the other, and unlocked the front door of the beautiful home she had purchased 3 years earlier. She barely had enough energy to think about dinner. All she wanted was silence. Just as she stepped inside, loud sirens echoed through the neighborhood. She looked through the window and noticed 2 patrol cars racing toward the house across the street. Curious neighbors gathered outside almost immediately. Danielle sighed. "Looks like someone is having a rough day." She closed her front door halfway and continued unpacking groceries. Less than 2 minutes later. Bang! 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 Someone pounded on her front door with enough force to shake the entire frame. She frowned. Who could that be? Opening the door calmly, she found herself staring at an enormous police officer whose face was bright red with anger. Standing behind him was a younger sheriff's deputy. Without introducing himself, without asking politely, the officer barked, "Identification! Right now!" Danielle blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry? I said give me your ID." His voice grew louder. "Now." Danielle kept her composure. "Officer, is there a reason you're demanding identification?" The officer folded his muscular arms. "We received reports of a suspicious individual entering this property." Danielle looked around in disbelief. "This property?" "Yes." She smiled politely. "I live here." The officer laughed sarcastically. "Sure you do?" Danielle raised an eyebrow. "I do." He stepped closer. "Ma'am, quit playing games. This house belongs to the homeowner." She answered calmly. "I am the homeowner." The younger deputy looked uncertain. He quietly whispered, "Sergeant, maybe we should." The older officer interrupted him. "I know exactly what I'm doing." He pointed directly at Danielle. "You people always have an excuse." Several neighbors gasped. Danielle's expression changed. She remained perfectly calm, but the warmth disappeared from her face. "Officer, what exactly do you mean by you people?" He ignored the question. "I've dealt with enough trespassers to recognize one." Danielle folded her arms. "So you're accusing me of breaking into my own home? If you can't prove otherwise." He lifted his handcuffs. "I'll arrest you." Across the street, dozens of neighbors had already gathered. Phones came out. People began recording. The younger deputy looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Sergeant, we haven't confirmed anything yet." The older officer snapped. "I don't need confirmation." Danielle spoke slowly. "Officer, I have committed no crime. I have done nothing suspicious. And under the Constitution, I am under no obligation to identify myself unless you have reasonable suspicion that I committed a crime." The officer smirked. "So now you're giving me legal lectures?" She answered softly. "Yes. Because the law matters." His patience vanished. "I don't care what Google told you." Danielle almost laughed. "It wasn't Google. It was law school." Some neighbors chuckled quietly. The officer became even angrier. "You think you're funny? No. I think you're mistaken." He reached toward his radio. "I'm giving you one last chance. Show me identification. Or you're going to jail." Danielle looked him directly in the eyes. There wasn't a hint of fear. Only confidence. She quietly placed her grocery bag on the floor. Then she crossed her arms again. If you're going to arrest me, you'd better be absolutely certain you're right. The officer interpreted her confidence as arrogance. Big mistake. He grabbed her wrist. The younger deputy immediately stepped forward. Sergeant! We should slow down. But the sergeant ignored him. He clicked one side of the handcuffs around Danielle's wrist. The neighborhood fell completely silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. One elderly woman whispered, "Oh my goodness!" Danielle still didn't resist. Instead, she calmly looked directly into the officer's eyes. Then she asked one simple question. "What is your full name and badge number?" He proudly answered, "Sergeant Michael Holt." She nodded. "Thank you." He laughed. "Planning to file a complaint?" She smiled for the first time. "No. I'm planning something much bigger." He rolled his eyes. "Everybody says that." She slowly reached into the folders she had been carrying all along. The officer immediately shouted, "Don't move!" She froze. "You told me to identify myself." Without another word, she carefully removed a dark blue leather credential wallet. The gold seal caught the sunlight. The younger deputy's eyes widened instantly. His mouth fell open. He recognized it before the sergeant did. His face turned pale. "Sergeant!" His voice trembled. "I think you need to see this." The sergeant snatched the credential from Danielle's hand. He glanced down casually. Then, everything changed. His face drained of color. His hand holding the cuffs began shaking. Stamped beneath the Department of Justice seal were words he never expected to read. United States Attorney's Office. And beneath the title, Assistant United States Attorney, Danielle Brooks. The entire neighborhood watched as the man who had been shouting moments earlier suddenly became speechless. He realized that the woman he had just handcuffed at her own front door wasn't a trespasser. She was one of the federal prosecutors who could legally investigate misconduct by public officials, including police officers. And Danielle calmly said only 6 chilling words. "Now, shall we continue this conversation?" End of Chapter 1.